Hey guys, I'm FatBuddyCat, and today I'm going to show you the full motor installation on my custom Doodlebug. Alright guys, the first step to this process is going to be getting a motor onto that engine plate. Alright? And we're not going to be worried about the studs, okay? They're going to be going down. We're just going to be worried about attaching the motor to the actual plate. So that would be these 4 bolts here, okay? Those would come up through it this way, and then the motor goes on, and then, you know, each one has a nut. So step 1, we're going to bolt our plate to the motor. Where do you see what we're doing next, guys? Well, here's our stock Tillotson 212R down here, because we're swapping in one of the bad boys. This is our OMB warehouse stage 2 Predator Hemi 212. Alright, we're going to be bolting it to the plate. Maybe I'll tell you a little bit more about the motor if you don't already know. Okay, follow the directions, that way you know which way the plate is going, and we're going to be feeding these up. Ooh, easier said than done. Just like that, alright? So what I'll do is I'll get all 4 of those in position, just like that, and then I'll be setting our motor down on the plate. It's got an ARC flywheel. Alright, it's on the plate. It's got a Dynacams CM265. We're going to leave the header off for now. If you look close, you might see the stainless valves. We're also going to be leaving off the carburetor for right now. But don't worry, those billet split retainers and 22-pound springs, they're in there. Alright, next we're going to spin the motor around, and we're going to want the crank facing us. If you're not sure, this output shaft, that's part of the crank. That's connected to a billet rod. And now, we're going to need some of those special parts from our friends at ombwarehouse.com. Alright, and what you're looking at here, guys, is a flat mount torque converter. Alright, it starts with the OMB warehouse custom plate. We're going to be adding our own bushing. Alright, we're going to need to build a jack shaft of sorts. We're going to need key stock, bearings, some bushings, and a pulley. Let's see what we can do. Okay, off to the side here, I already have my mounting bolts. We're going to take the torque converter plate and we're going to mount it just like normal. Okay, real quick, you can see this has multiple different holes, right? So even though it's flat mount, this is flat mount for multiple different motors, okay? Now you can make adjustments too, but this is what we're going with, alright? If you're not familiar with this product, guys, This is steel, okay? This is heavy, so make sure you hold on to it, and you don't cross thread anything or drop it on your toe. It would actually hurt. Okay, the plate's mounted. The next thing we're going to be working on is our shaft. All right, we're going to need a bushing. Now, this bushing, guys, isn't what aids the spin of the shaft, okay? This bushing is simply a spacer so that when things are tight, there's something there, okay? And it keeps things from being sandwiched together too tight, more specifically bearings, okay? Places you find these are axles, all right? If you look at your axle next time you go to feed it through and you see that bushing in the middle, you'll notice it doesn't fit exactly in the housing, okay? It'll have some play. The same thing you'll notice is when your axle goes through, you'll have a little bit of play there too, all right? So this isn't an axle, this is a shaft, but we're going to be dealing with the same thing, all right? So by design, there's these inlays, okay? Now these are machined on both sides, and that's for your bearing, all right? Now you can choose, I believe, I want to say, I know you can do 5/8 and 3/4, all right? So you can obviously go smaller, and it all depends on the inside diameter of your bearing, okay? I'm going to go with 5/8, all right? So the first thing we're going to have to do is get a measurement from the inside of this seat on this side to the inside of the seat on the other side. All right, and that's going to be a rough estimate as to how big our bushing is going to be. Very simple. I just have a tape measure. I have it hooked on this side, passing through. All right, and then I'll take my measurement on this side. It looks to me like it's going to be about 2.5 inches, all right, because I'm hooked on the face, right, the outside face, call it, and I'm measuring to the same face on this side. But we need to be between the two faces, right? So even though I'm ever so long, if I go 2.5, I'll probably make it just where I need to be. The bushing that I'll be using today, guys, this is just a piece of 1-inch header that I had cut off and I saved. Go figure. It's very bright out and my camera does not respond well to it. I have to get it fixed. But I just made a line. I'm going to cut this off. Angle grinder, guys. Okay, so here's my 2.5-inch section. I guess we could just go ahead and call it our bushing now. I took a file and went around the edges real quick, just knocked down the burrs and stuff. And the next thing I'm going to be doing is installing one of the bearings. I think I'll do the back one first. I'll just put it in place. I'm going to take a little bit of that red grease I have, just put it on the outside and give it a bump with a rubber mallet. Okay, rubber mallet, a little bit of grease, and bearings in there. So now we can take our bushing, right, and we can push it in, and we can see that we're well within the perimeters that we need. I could actually go a little bit longer, right? But I think what I'm going to do is grab a 5/8 bushing, all right? And I'll put a couple of those in there. Matter of fact, when I slip my shaft through, I'll do one on each side. Okay, before I put in any bushings, we're going to leave this bearing out because obviously I wouldn't be able to get the bushings in, right, if this bearing was in. So what we'll end up doing is we'll have our shaft come through, right, and we'll feed everything on from this side. So we'll go bushing, right, and then our spacer, and then, you know, another bushing. Might only need one. No, we can do two. And that'll also give us nice flat edges on the outside up against our bearing. That's what you want. Now for the shaft, we're gonna go right through, and we have a bearing on the other side, all right? So we're gonna have to be careful. I might send it through the other side. Let me take a look at this. All right, just in test fitting, I can tell you that the bearings are gonna be very snug. So I'm gonna take an emery cloth, I'm gonna run it up and down this shaft here. See if we can't fine-tune things a little bit. Alright, if you're wondering what an emery cloth is, it's sort of like a sandpaper and cloth all in one. Alright, I'm just holding it in the palm of my hand, alright, and spinning the shaft a little bit, alright, as we run up and down it. Alright, here's the bearing. Here's what we have so far. It slides on, and then it starts to catch. Alright, so a little bit more of that action, we'll be good to go. Okay, and I had to go back and use a rough sandpaper, then a little bit finer sandpaper, then our emery cloth in order to achieve this. Okay, so that is perfect. That's what we want. At this point, I'm just gonna make sure I have two of the same bearings and start putting some of my extras away. Okay, I thoroughly cleaned the shaft with what do I use this time? Some carbon choke cleaner, brake clean, even soap and water. Just want to make sure there's no metal particulate on it. There's going to be bearings on this after all. Okay, so we can start feeding it in through this side. Alright, and then, like I said, I didn't put the bearing in over here yet, or the bushings or any of that stuff. Alright, what we're looking for is a length. So we're going to be looking for some bushings. We're going to be using a 10-tooth sprocket, and we're going to have to get our pulley on there. Typically, I like to use the split style collars, but I have a few of these sitting around, so we can always replace them later. I like to leave a little bit of extra cyborg meat on my end, but I'll take one, put it on this side. Something like that will be fine. We're just going to leave a little tail. It's not going to hurt anything. Over on this side, we're just going to set it up like a regular torque converter. Just be careful, that bearing's not there, so just pretend that's a flat surface. I think we're going to go bushing, sprocket, bushing, alright, just to be safe. Then our pulley. And we have this bushing, okay, from a regular 30 series torque converter. It already has the notch in it for the keyway. So we'll have a plain bushing against this, then our sprocket, and then this one, alright? That way our key can pass through under the sprocket through the pulley. Alright? So here we go. We're going to put a regular bushing. And we're just going to... Actually, you know what? I got something even better. Okay. Now, this washer, guys, this 5/8 washer, that's just there to give me a flat surface. So that as I'm pushing my parts on, right, I'm not fighting the shaft. Okay? So, we'll just pretend that's our flat surface. Then we'll do a bushing. Then the sprocket. Then our keyed bushing. And last but not least, this part might... nope, look at that. Right on, guys. See what I mean? Take the time, prep it, sand it, do what you got to do. Obviously, it's flimsy because we only have one bearing in. Alright, so this won't be here. So everything will be sitting up flush. Alright, we're going to be running 420 chain. So we know we can get 1 or 2 bushings on either side, alright? If we get rid of that washer. And that's at this length. The last thing that goes on is the little lock collar, right? I think I'm going to go and use this washer on the outside here and then put my lock collar. Alright, so technically we could mark right here for our cut. Alright, but we're going to try to keep the same kind of reveal. Alright, now I came in a little bit. So we're going to try to keep something like that out here as well. Typically on a regular torque converter you would have that big nut, right? One of those, let's see if I got one in here, guys. I'm probably looking right at it. Well, they're all on pulleys. But anyways, you would have that big nylock nut, alright, which would probably come out to about there anyway. So if we were to look at, you know, getting some kind of a cover or fabricating some kind of a cover for this, that's something you'd want to pay attention to. Because as you come up and over, you know what I mean, you want to make sure you clear your driver, but you don't want to go too wide because you start affecting your foot peg room. Alright? So the reason I'm telling you guys all this is my installation. Alright? So if you have to do one, it might be different. Just some things to consider. So that said, I'm going to eyeball over here, make a mark. I'm going to go out and cut it. Okay, so here's my cut shaft. And I just kind of tapered the ends back. Gave it that nice finished look. So, the next step, guys, is going to be putting the shaft on. Okay, fits very snug. Perfect. All right, now this is where we're going to add a bushing, then our spacer, another bushing, and then finally I'll put a little bit of red grease on the seat here and I'll press my bearing on. Use a rubber mallet working around the edges. Should go real easy with the grease on there. Okay, I have my bearing seated in. Alright, now you can see how my bushing, right, isn't sitting in line with the bearing, so the shaft can't go through. What I'll do is I'll just reach in there with a small flathead, get it in line, and I'll push my shaft through. Very good. Alright, sorry guys, I had to turn the fan on, so my voice might sound a little funny. Everything's on here, nothing's tight, but it's in the order that I want it. Alright, my sprocket's nice and centered. We have plenty of room where we can add bushings if we need to. I don't think we're going to need to. The next part of this, guys, I can tighten this side over here, alright, and then over on this side we're going to need to make a key. Alright, this part is super simple. What we're going to do is feed our key in, right? Make sure that our sprocket and our washer line up. There's the washer, and there's the sprocket. Okay, make sure we go all the way through, which we did. All right, there we go. All right, you heard that click, right? So we're all the way in. I can see something's not. Alright, right there. Alright guys, the next part is the keyway. So I take my collar off, my pulley off. Alright, we're left with this situation here where we have our washer that has the keyway in it, right? And then our key passes through our sprocket. And then it's gonna bottom out against that bushing instead of the bearing, right? So just looking at this, while I'm here guys, I'm gonna go ahead and add one of my little black bushings. They're a little bit skinnier, all right, and then my key. Okay, so now I have the silver bushing, a black bushing, my sprocket, the key goes all the way through to the two bushings. Then we have our keyed washer, all right. Then our pulley. I'm gonna need two hands for this. Okay, so now I have that side tight, everything on, the pulley's on, and now our key's sticking way out here. What do you think we're gonna do? We're gonna mark right there with a marker. We're gonna take it outside and we're gonna cut it. All right, and then we're just gonna file it back a little bit so that we know that our key sits inside of the face of the pulley out here, right? So that when we put our 5/8 washer and our lock collar on, we're good to go. Okay, so as you can see, my key is inside a little bit. All right, it's not sticking out anywhere. Put our washer on, and then finally, might have to loosen that, but I'll end with my lock collar. And just like that, we have our pulley. All right, these washers, they're a little sloppy. I think I'm going to take those off, guys. Replace them with bushings. Yeah, that's nice. Alright, for the next part, guys, we're going to need some chain. Alright, I don't want to use this one yet, because once I cut this, I want it to be correct. I'm going to look around, see if I can't find another piece. Alright, so we have the section of, I believe it's 420 chain. Yeah, we'll go with that. I'm going to take the motor and I'm going to be placing it on the plate. Alright? You be careful not to knock this thing over. Oh no, guys, there's no way this is going to work. Oh, what do I do? Oh yeah, I have a split sprocket adapter. Alright? Here's what I'm working with for clearance, okay? We're not touching, alright, anywhere. But I can gain about a ½ inch. Remember how? I'm going to flip my sprocket adapter, okay? Now, since we cut this lobe back, we're not going to have any issues. Alright, so it's going to be straightforward. I'm going to take the wheel off, I'm going to flip everything around, I'm going to put it back on, and then we'll come back to here. Alright, I have everything turned around, and I forgot about this little clearance issue. When you're running the 420 sprocket in the back, you have to use narrower hardware on the head. These just barely clear the frame, and when everything's torqued in, I believe they will hit. So I'm going to pull those out and put something else in. I'm going to shoot for like a hex pan head kind of thing, and I might have to do a couple like 10mm flat. I'm just using a ratchet wrench and Allen's going around. I can do it right on the bike one at a time. Alright, now I got to reverse the reverse. I can put the pan heads like that and it'll clear fine. These ones don't, but with everything torqued, not only do these not clear, but the chain won't. So yeah, let's go the other way. Alright, now that we're back to this again, like I said, we are still not touching. Alright, there you go. Now you can see what I'm working with. Alright, and that is pretty close to lined up right there. Okay, now that is also going to be pretty close to the furthest back position. It can actually go back further and it's still not going to touch that tire. Alright, and we have you know, a solid inch up in the front. 420 chain. I've been told that we can run up to 3 feet long without a tensioner and no derailment. What this is, guys, is very close to a setup that would be, say, on a go-kart, right? You know, the motor would be up over here. You know, you'd have the axle down here. We'd be looking at the wheel and stuff. And the sprocket would be on the inside of the axle, right? Well, the way go-karts are set up, the torque converter hangs down, or it usually does. I know on Yerf dogs they do. And what you try to do is hang the torque converter in a manner that you can get the shortest chain possible. We're trying to mimic that on a mini bike. What I'm looking at now, guys, is the engine plate itself, alright? The billet plate. This thing can go front to back, side to side. So, if I were to square the front of the plate up to the pegs, I wonder what it would look like. I wonder if it would throw my alignment out back there. Let me try a few things, guys. What I'm trying to do is keep the billet plate to the center of the bike as much as possible. When the motor moves side to side, okay, it's gonna move on top of the plate. When we need the motor to go front to back, the entire plate and the motor move. Alright? So that means we can only come forward pretty much as far as our oil drain bolt. Okay? Now, if I look up there, we have plenty of space. Another option here, guys, is going to be similar to what I did on the Doodlebug. Alright, and that's where I would use the torque converter plate on top of this plate, okay, and that would get me up over that frame if I need to. So we got a lot of options here. I'm gonna choose the best one. Alright, with a little bit of figuring and the ideas that I had some straight lines somewhere, what I'm going to be able to do is center the plate and then run square off the back, okay? And that will center my engine. It'll get me very, very, very close on my alignment. Alright, you can see I'm a little bit out there, alright? But without moving the plate, our motor can go side to side. That's not a problem. But it can also, like right there, see how the plate's not moving, but the motor's pitching? Okay? So, we'll be able to pick that up. I'm going to try to pretty much mount this plate right in the center of the bike. What I'm paying attention to is where the motor is as to the billet plate right now, okay? So if we were to go center right now, right, and that's where I drilled the plate. If you look over on the left corner, you'll see we're just about out of room over there. All right, the motor moves on top of the plate, remember? So we're getting really close to maximum left by having the plate in the center. Now, when I come over here, I know that that engine block, all right, you see the underneath, you see the channel, all right, that engine block can come flush to the edge of these billet plates, all right. So now what we look at is our relativity to alignment, okay. Let me hold some tension on that chain. You can see I'm out there, all right. Now that isn't a twist, that's the engine actually has to go over, all right. So that means if the plate were right where it's at, we have another ½ inch to maximum left. We have to go to the right with our motor. We're going to be okay, all right. So what I'm going to do now is take the motor off and get it off of the plate so that it's separate by itself. I might actually have another billet plate. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take it off to put the studs anyway, so we're just gonna do what we're supposed to do. I'll get that plate. Well, guys, it's the next morning, and you're really not gonna believe this. I'm just kidding, guys. If you're into this sort of thing, you will believe it. I gotta take apart this torque converter one more time, okay? This part back here, guys, this is raw metal, all right? I don't want this to rust, and it's a really, really opportune time to add a little bit of color, all right? So, see what we can do. Taking this apart is super simple. Loosen the one on the front, all right, and we just take everything off. Oh, those will come off. Get our key out of there. Well, there it is. All right, and then you just pull it back. All right. Good stuff. Okay, now that our shaft is out, our next part is going to be removing the plate. Okay, I have all my pieces here. Believe it or not, I remember where they all go. If not, I have video footage. I ran some sandpaper just roughly over the plate and attached a coat hanger to it, all right? And we're going to be hanging it with a smaller zip tie this time. All right, guys, it's bright, sunny, and hot today, and I doubled up on my zip tie. We don't want those to melt like hot butter, especially not in the middle of this process, because we're about to slap this thing around with the original black high heat ultra grill paint. This part's going to see some action, so I'm not worried about primer. Just going to put it to it. Okay, I now have the billet plate in position. Alright, all I used is my tape measure. Okay, and all I used that for was to check my measurement back here. Okay, in all that stuff I did last night, I had discovered that the back of this plate is square, okay, with my pegs. So this makes installing the plate very, very simple. You don't want to pay attention to this distance here, okay? Reason being, they're different angles. You can kind of see it from the top. So what I'm doing is I'm just centering the front of the plate, all right? And we already looked at that yesterday, and we know that the engine can move over on with our studs, right? And come flush to the outside of the plate. In this position, we are already able to go too far to the left by about a ½ inch, okay? That's good. So that means we can get where we need to be with the plate in the middle. Now we have to drill some holes. You notice the plate is in the full forward position, okay? When the motor was on with the torque converter, in this area, okay, where the shaft is and all those splines are, right, that hold that to get that housing on the back of the plate, that's where it gets tight, right? So at full forward, that would give us full tension on our chain and give us maximum distance, all right? So instead of just placing our holes anywhere inside these slots, we're going to end up placing them towards the back of these slots, okay? That way this can slide back the entire distance of those slots for adjustment. All right, guys? Wish me luck. I just drilled my pilot holes with the plate in place. All right, this is going to be one of my mounting bolts. I prefer to use a step bit. And drill these pilots out. All right, once I get it pretty close, I start rifling through my old man's collection, and I think about like what he may have been doing when he used some of these, and I try to find just the right one. I'll be sure to put it back. I go just one size bigger on my holes. That way, if I'm a little off in my channel, I get a little bit of leeway. I know I'm not going to be that far off, so if I have a little bit in each one, chances are everything will work fine and dandy. I'm going to test fit it, but then we're going to give this a quick respray. Alright guys, take our plate, put it over our holes, and then we just start sticking our bolts in. Bolts and holes. Bolts and holes. Kind of like that Step Brothers song. You know what I'm talking about. See that hot action, guys? That's what we need. Back to front. A little bit of wiggle room. All right. These studs will be sticking up and through. Motor goes on that. It can go side to side, the whole thing front to back. Wham bam jam. That's good money. All right. So at this point, my torque converter plate is dry. Looks beautiful. Nice factory finish. Grill factory. So I'm going to take that, attach it, and put it all back together. Just like, okay, this next part is kind of cool. This is a High Sun 196 off a Coleman CT200U, slightly modified. Okay, on the back of the High Suns, they typically have an oil extension, all right, a drain extension, all right. Well, guess what? That fit over here on our Predator 212 Hemi. So now what we're going to do is take our motor, we're going to put it on our plate, right on our studs, and we're going to get it pretty close to where the chain's going to line up. Might as well just line it right up. All right, and then we're going to mark for a hole back here, and we're going to drill one. That way we can drain our oil nice and easy and clean. Okay, now I'm going to explain to you the importance of this extension. Just enjoy the sound effect from the fan. All right, if you look down underneath, okay, you can see the cross member underneath the plate. We left that there and welded to it. All right, so here's the thing. If that wasn't there and we were just using the plug, okay, we know the one in the front might be tight up against our rail at some point. It won't, but it's going to be close. All right, but we can't really drain from up there, and I don't want to drill a hole right up there in the front. So what this does is I'm at what is close to a usable link on the chain, okay? If anything, we might go slightly forward, slightly backwards, then forward to make our tension. Either way, just underneath this is going to be about where our oil drop's going to be. I think I'm going to mark it, and we're going to make like an oversized oblong hole of sorts, okay? This is my Doodlebug. This is set up, you know, a way that I want it to be set up. But with this plate, if, you know, something new comes along, we can have options, okay? Meaning, if we have to cut it to the left, you know, a 1/4 inch, or to the right, or forward, or backwards, maybe the drive system changes, okay? It at least gives us a bigger target area, and we'll get more uses out of that one hole. Makes sense to me. I'm gonna mark it out. I'm gonna drill that son of a gun. Ooh yeah. All right, here's my layout. I do have nuts holding this on, finger torqued, so I think I'm gonna have to take that off to do a nice clean job. Yep. I'm just pulling out this jigsaw, and I'm reminiscing again. A little game my father used to play with me You see this plastic case that this is in? This is obviously not the one it came with. It would have been some kind of metal one. This, believe it or not, was one of me or my brother's first toolkits with like the little plastic toys and stuff in it. And that's what he reused it for. Just disappeared one day, right? This one, I found a bunch of like barbecue stuff in. It's got like the cutlery and the spatula and stuff. Alright, that was when I was landscaping and such. It had a couple wrenches and things in it. And this one, this was behind the seat of my truck for a really long time. He's got my jumper cables here too somewhere. Alright, true to form, I'm going to show you the dirty. All I did was drill the pilot hole, took my step bit, sent it all the way home, and now I'm going to take the jigsaw and I'm going to cut out each side, alright, as square as I can, to make a big oblong hole. Kyle the file can get in there, finish off the rest. Alright, well, I might have had the wrong ticket, but I definitely didn't miss the bus. This is just going to take a little touch up. This is a little heavy for Kyle, so we'll bring his cousin in. Let him do the dirty work. Okay. Here's our nice factory-ish hole. Next thing, we're going to put our motor back on. Woo-hoo-wee! Yeah. That has that nice factory look to it, don't it? That's pretty close to lined up. The next thing, guys, we got to get a chain on here. Hot dog. Alright, guys. This is a very nice chain. Okay, this is a EK motorcycle chain. No messing around. We do not need a tensioner. Okay, this stuff is not going to stretch. We're going to set the motor, and that's pretty much going to be it. I can go forward to shag. All right, I'm loose right here. We can always take another link out. You know what I'm saying? Bring the motor back and then forward again, and you know, we'll be back a little bit further from there. So, time being, I think we're going to see what this does. Next, I have to tighten the bolts that hold the motor down. Alright, I got everything tightened down. Beautiful. That is smooth. Alright, guys, we're going to go ahead and call that a complete engine installation. Alright, everything from fuel to chain. Okay, everything else, the exhaust, carburetor, the throttle, that's all going to be coming up. And also, we're going to have something brand new from ombwarehouse.com. Stay tuned, guys. This is going to get serious. as if it hasn't already. That's what it is, guys, when it's a work in progress. I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.